Well, hello everybody, welcome back. Tonight we're gonna fabricate the heel and the throat for this previously fabricated cheeks of this three-way Y branch, with the one entering at an 8-inch and then the other three leaving at 6 inches, one at 60 degrees, 90 degrees, and a straight connection there. So tonight, you previously watched me fabricate this cheek, the left and the right, the mirror image of one another. Now we're going to get into fabricating the heels and the throats for that fitting. So we've got a bunch of them here. There's actually 4 heels and throats, 1, 2, 3, and 4, or A, B, C, and D, as we're going to mark them here in a little bit. So anyway, as you can see with the throats, the height of our fitting, or the width, is going to be 8 inches, and then we're going to have a take up for the lock form on each side. Our lock form machine 7/8, most of them are going to be an inch. So we're going to cut our part at 9 3/4 and fit them up. There's the first rolled section. Here is one of the heels. This one appears to be straight on both sections, so it's probably going to be this one here. Again, 8 inches in our lock former take up. Then we've got our other heel pattern for the other side. Notice one of these sections does have a slight roll to it. That's what they're indicating there. And the last one is just the rolled throat for that 90. So all of these are 8 inches. Final dimension of the duct with that lock former take up, ours again being 7/8. So let's go ahead and get into that next. So you can basically look at any one of those fittings, and we're going to build them side by side, one next to each other. But I am going to separate. I'm going to separate probably 2 of them. I'm going to do a throat and a heel, and then a throat and a heel. So when I run it through the lock form machine, that if something happens, I don't have to rebuild the whole works. So that's what we're looking at. I'm going to tack this throat onto this heel section. So let's do that next. Let's get into it. 8 inches was my final dimension, so 8 plus my 7/8 for my lock former here was going to run me a 9 3/4 inch dimension on those throats. So I already cut that to the width of the sheet, unless you've got some scrap laying in the bin, which I don't at this time for the size. So the next thing I did, and then, is I took my 7/8 scribe there, and I'm going to run them down the full width of this part. That should give me a final dimension in between the 2 marks there of 8 inches, and it does. So I'm going to work on the next thing, is the rolled section for this throat, and then this heel section with the roll on the left, and then we'll work from the right with the rolled throat section and the heel section there. I previously recorded this, so I've got most of this actually done already, but something happened with the camera, so here I am doing it again. Anyway, what I did to measure these dimensions, again, you can use the rope, the string, the wire, whatever fits decent, or a piece of metal like I'm using here, 1/4 inch piece out of the scrap bin. Just line it up with the part, and then take your 10 snips and cut it to your length. Once you got that length, we're going to transfer that over to the part. So laying it out flush with the edge there, take my scribe and we'll find that distance there. Then I'm going to take my square, and I will square that all the way across to the edge of the sheet there. And that will eventually be a cut mark. I brought it all the way across for that reason. The next thing we're going to do then is we're going to measure the dimension of the upper portion here, of the upper heel portion, which I've already done that the other night too. So I've got this part already made. Again, I just bent an angle on it here, and then I held it in there, and again I cut both ends off to fit. Then what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to lay that out there, again marking my rolled section. Oops, let's use the other scribe for this. setting up the edge there, and I'm going to find the bend connection point there between the two, and I've got that right there. And then with my square, I'm not going to square this entirely all across. I'm just going to square the edges across where I've got to notch that out later. So when I put my heel on there and I bend my lock form over, they can get out of the road of one another. So I've got that set up. Oops, I flipped it. Yep. Keep it that direction. Make sure I didn't flip it here. I didn't. And then we're going to flatten that back out, noting that this is the rolled section. Maybe here, so it doesn't get covered up in the lock former. And we'll jot down that dimension. This one is going to be a cut mark, so this one I'm going to run all the way across the sheet, like so. So that'll take care of this half of the project. For example, this will be part A, this will be part B with the rolled section. Now we're going to work on part C and D over here from this other end. And by the way, I'm kind of jumping around here. The pages are in the book the same, of showing you how to notch this and everything as well. Now I'm going to work on the last two, the throat and the heel patterns, to continue on with this procedure. So again, I could tack it right onto the end, but I'm going to just cut that out later. So now I'm going to start from this end and work back, and if the sheet's long enough, it should fit just fine. So again, the other night I took a piece of metal, took my snips, and I cut them to the lengths on there, and this will be the rolled distance of part C. So with my scribe, I'll start it on the edge of the sheet there, find that distance, and again, we'll square that across. Right there. I ran that all the way across because that is going to be a cut mark for C, and that will have a roll. And same with A. A will be a roll. Now I've got to find the dimension for D. Again, just like before, took the piece of metal, long strip that I had cut off there, bent it in the center to fit, took my snips and I cut them off even with the plates on both sides, both edges there. And then the next thing for us to do is set it on the edge of this rolled part, part C here. We'll mark the center point where we'll have to notch that out. Set my square in there. This time I'm not going to square it all the way across. I'm just going to get the edges where they need to be. And then I'm going to finish up with the flat section there. And this part is just strictly a bend on it. So we will not have to mark a roll or anything on these. These are just going to be two straight sections here. And then again, we'll square that across. Right there. So let's go up and take these up to the shear, and we'll cut the two big sections, the left and the right, loose from each other. So A and B will be attached, and C and D will be attached to one sheet, and then later on, after I lock form them, we'll separate those as well. But for right now, let's just separate the A and B pair from the C and D pair. Okay, here we are at the shear. We're going to slide that into our cut mark, and then we'll separate C and D from one another. And then we'll separate A and B from the waste in the center of the sheet, the leftover section of that part. Now that we're back here by the bench, we're going to go ahead and get our notcher out and get ready to complete that part of the procedure. So on our 7/8 marks, on both ends of both sheets, and we'll flip them around and do the same on the other side of the parts B and C here. Alright. And then in between, where these will actually separate after a little bit, we've got to take out that gable roof. So we're going to use our scrap sections there and scribe the marks for that. And then we'll just freehand them back a couple degrees on that side, and we'll do the same on this other side. Do the same between parts C and D here. Again, I'm doing all this because they'll be too short to go through the lock form machine on their own. Snips. Okay, that portion's taken care of. Now let's take care of these outer edges. We'll knock them back and them corners out of there. All right, that's almost 100% complete with the layout and the general fabrication part of the procedure, but there's one thing left to do, and that's we got to put a notch in here where the D connection has to make that bend on it on both sides, and we got to do the same on the B portion as well. So just take your 3/4 inch notcher and we'll take a slight chunk out of there too. And we'll do the same with regarding B. Again, right where they're gonna put that bend in there to make that fold. Got to have some sections cut out of there. Okay, so currently what we have is we got a rolled section for A. The B section is cut out like this right now here, and then it's going to be bent and rolled that direction, and for some reason that looks long. Maybe I had it backwards. We'll work it out. And then we've got the D section right here, which is going to be bent and rolled there as well, and the C section for down here. So alright, let's go ahead and run them through the lock form next. Here we are at the lock form, just keeping it tight against the fence. We'll send them both through and spin around, do that again. Now that we've got them finished up with our lock former, we'll go ahead and we'll separate C from D and B from A. We'll do that on the shear here. Send them in there, line them up, and we'll get them cut off. Okay, back here at the bench, I'm just getting fitted up here, getting ready to roll and run through the bending brake and everything with all these parts. I got my spacers in them all, so we can roll them and fabricate them, and they'll still have that stretched out opening, so it should fall together fairly nicely. So I've got A with A, C with C, my two throats, which get a roll on them, and then I get B and D. B needs probably the most special setup where it needs to be rolled and bent accordingly to its needs there. So we're going to start with that one first of all. The first thing I want to do is I want to put the roll on this section right through here, and then we'll bend it up and make it fit after the fact there. So that way, being it's a short section, when we roll it, it doesn't bottom out against the rollers against that 90 degree. These are a little complicated as well, but it is a straight section, so it just needs to be bent. Nothing too exciting with that one as time goes on here. So, all right, let's get started on that rolled section then. So here we have B. We're going to slip it in there, and I notice right now, right off the bat, that the rolls are fairly tight, so we're going to back them off quite a bit. Alright, the next thing I want to do is I want to verify that I'm going to roll this in the proper direction. So taking the part, we got to determine, yes, it is going to be the line side up, and then we're going to bend it with the line side down. But rolling purposes, we will bend it this direction. This half lines up. So we'll send it through there, and we'll crank it through just to the halfway point. Continue to tighten it up. until the curvature of the part matches the fitting. And we look like we're getting pretty close there. Yeah, that's fine for now. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around and I'm going to put it in the brake. If it wasn't quite close enough, I'd prefer to over-roll that, over-bend it per se, and then flatten it back out a little later so it opens things up much easier than trying to fight with it. So I think we're okay though, so we're going to spin around and we're going to put the 90-degree bend on it now. So find the marks from our previously set points there, and we're going to bend that approximately to a 90-degree on that setup, and that's going to fit for that section. While I'm set up in the roller, now I'm going to work on the roll for part C. So with my fitting over here, we notice that we got to roll this one opposite of what we just previously did. So this one has to be the line side down. So we'll send it through the first run, and we notice we got to go tighter with it. And that curvature appears to be pretty close there as well. And then I'm going to finish up with A. Again, noticing that I got to roll this to the line side down. So we'll slip that one in there. And this radius was the same dimension, so it should be fairly close on that. And it is. Actually, I overbent it just slightly. So we'll straighten them back out just a little bit, and we'll be ready to go with A, C, and B. The last thing to do is finish fabricating part D here, which is, it doesn't require a roll, but it does require a bend. So I'm going to set D up there and determine, okay, this is the direction, and we got to bend that to about, I don't know, a little over 45 degree or everything. Well, actually, it's over 90. So we're going to set it in there. And we'll fold that over to the 90 plus situation. And there we got it. We got part D fabricated and ready to go. And that's going to pretty well wrap it up for this video. We've got everything set up, A, B, C, and D here with the project. Let's see if I can get these to sit, and it's going to look something like that there. So anyway, they're going to fall over, but I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it helps. We'll catch you on the next one for assembly. Later.